Thank you. So much gratitude for the chance to practice with all of you, for coming together and being held in the love and supportive hands of Rabbi Mark and Natalie, and our whole IJS community. I also want to just add my words of gratitude to you, Arthur and Lisa. The text that I'll share in just a little bit as part of our practice really lifts up the souls of two other women in our tradition. So that feels very aligned, and I'm so appreciative of your generosity and thoughtfulness. And now more than ever, I just really cherish this chance to tend our hearts and souls in this quiet and spacious and nourishing way. All right, so let's take a moment just to move around a bit, make some adjustments, and assess how your body is feeling and showing up in this moment. Maybe some gentle neck rolls, some very gentle, soft spinal rotation of your ankles or wrists, even just a deep inhalation and sighing out. And when you feel like you've made enough room in your body for your breath, I invite you to take 3 inhales and exhales. Your eyes can be open, closed, or anywhere in between. I invite you to relax your hands onto your lap in a way that feels good. And just allow your breath to flow naturally through your body. Let these breaths be the first steps into your practice. Your first few steps towards you. Each inhale and exhale is a step closer to home. Every time we sit, we're invited to feel at home in our bodies in this moment. So notice what you're carrying that might interrupt the road between you and you. And if there's something that's taking you outside of yourself, can you turn to the breath, to the practice to bring you home again? Into our hands and our hearts, we place gratitude for the opportunity to come together, to sit and breathe, to heal, and to come home, not in the spirit of selfishness or ego, but as a chance to come home to our wholeness in service of our higher purpose and our higher presence in this world. When you're ready, feel free to open your eyes if you close them. So at the very end of this week's Torah portion, after a tremendous amount of action, Abraham welcoming in the angels, these messengers into his tent. We have the story of Sodom v'Amorah, the birth of Isaac, the Akedah, just to name a few highlights or lowlights, depending on how you read them. But we read a genealogy at the very end of the Parsha, which includes the birth of Rebecca, who will become Yitzchak's wife in the next Torah portion. And when I was much younger, I used to think genealogies were boring. But my beloved teacher at Pardes, Judy Klitzner, taught us that genealogies often hold hints that can open us up to deeper meaning. So I'm going to invite us to take a look at a midrash, a story, an ancient rabbinic story that builds on this somewhat cryptic reference to Rivka in the genealogy at the end of our parsha, and what her appearance might open up for us in our practice and in our lives. And the midrash begins with a line, a verse from Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, which we just read during Sukkot. So in this verse, it says, "The sun rises and the sun sets and glides back to where it rises. One generation goes, another comes, but the earth remains the same forever." And about this verse, we have the following midrash. Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana said, "Don't we know that the sun sets and it rises? What is this coming to teach us that we don't already know?" That's basically what he's asking. Before God makes the sun of one tzaddik, one righteous person, set, God makes the sun of another tzaddik rise. Before Sarah's sun set, God made Rivka's sun rise. So this midrash builds on the fact that in next week's parasha, Chaye Sarah, it will open with Sarah's death. So before she dies and her sun sets, we learn that Rivka's sun rises as she makes her way into the family tree of our people. And first off, I just think it's such a beautiful and poetic idea that when an especially good and righteous human is born, their sun rises, and when they leave the world, their sun sets. And I also think it's a tremendous comfort to imagine that God brings a new soul into the world even before we experience the loss of another soul. And while there's no replacement for our loved ones who die, the idea that there are other beautiful souls always entering this world fills me with hope and consolation. And I think it offers us a way to experience impermanence with a little less grasping and a little more emunah, a little more faith. And in a moment in which many of us feel that the world has shifted in such a way that engenders a sense of loss and fear, this sense of how we will go forward without, you can fill in the blank. This verse from Kohelet and the Midrash reminds us of something very powerful. The breath rises and sets, people rise and set, feelings rise and set, thoughts rise and set, sensations rise and set. Change is built into the very fabric of our existence. And into that change is actually a measure of God's grace, sort of woven throughout, if we choose to experience it that way. So Natalie, you can take the text down. The invitation for our practice, if this feels good for you, is to pay attention to the breath and notice the continuity of the in-breath and the out-breath, the way that it comes and goes and the connection between them, and to experience this pattern of coming and going as a gift, as reassurance that another breath will come, another thought will arrive, another sensation will invite our attention. We can endure this experience of perpetual change and impermanence. We can train in it and hold within it a frame of God's love and sustenance. So let's practice. I invite you to find a good seat once again. This is a shape in which the body can feel both relaxed and alert. And just allow your eyes to close or your gaze to soften, and take a couple of cleansing breaths. Breathing in and breathing out. See if you can soften any places in which your body habitually holds tension or worry, even ever so slightly. And when you feel ready to create some stillness, feel your body starting to receive the support of the earth. Feel it underneath you and moving through you. And in between all of us. And I invite you to rest your attention on the rhythm of things coming and going, rising and setting. To experience fully the breath moving through your body, belly, chest, throat, head, and back again. Again and again, like waves of the ocean, never separate, always part of the larger whole. We'll continue in silence for the next couple of minutes, and I'll bring us together with the sound of my voice. An excerpt from Nothing is Lost by John O'Donohue. All through your life, the most precious experiences seem to vanish. Transience turns everything to air. You look behind and see no sign, even of a yesterday that was so intense. Yet in truth, nothing ever disappears. Nothing is lost. Everything that happens to us in the world passes into us. It all becomes part of the inner temple of the soul, and it can never be lost. This is the art of the soul, to harvest your deeper life from all the seasons of your experience. This is probably why the soul never surfaces fully. The intimacy and tenderness of its light would blind us. We continue in our days to wander between the shadowing and the brightening, while all the time a more subtle brightness sustains us. If we could but realize the sureness around us, we would be much more courageous in our lives. The frames of anxiety that keep us caged would dissolve. We would live the life we love, and in that way, day by day, free our future from the weight of regret. So begin to deepen your breath. I invite you to place one hand on your heart. Just breathe into that space of emet, truth that dwells within you. The part of you that knows we are only here for a short time. And breathe into that space of emet, of truth, that knows that we are not actually separate. Not separate from one another, and not separate from the Great Spirit, which is imprinted on every cell of every living being and every atom in the universe. We hold all of that, both the awareness of our impermanence and the awareness of indivisible oneness with chesed, with deep love and compassion. May we go forth into the days ahead, reminded that these two things are true. Our sun will set along with the radiant light of those we love, and our spiritual path is grounded in oneness. Shalom. 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 Turn it back to Rabbi Mark.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Jenny Solomon. Friends, we seal this beautiful practice. For those who would like to send the mourner's Kaddish, if you're in mourning, serving a yard site, if it's your custom to join in the Kaddish. Thanks to Natalie for sharing the words on the screen. We'll recite the Kaddish in a moment. If you're not reciting Kaddish, we ask you to please stay present for a few minutes to support those who are. And if you'd like to put the name or names of those you're honoring in the chat today, remembering Ann Plutzer today and Harriet Brezhnev, Chaya Rivka, and please add the names of others you're honoring today in the chat. And if you're reciting Kaddish, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit. You can unmute at this time. Yitgadal, Yitgadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ma Divra
Rakute, Yamafute,
Chayechon V'yochon Uchaye D'chol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala Ubizman Kariv V'Yiru Amen. Yehi
Yehi
Shmei
Shmei
Rabba
Rabba
Levarach
Levarach
Le'olam
Lam
U'Amen
Omaya.
Omaya. Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh Hadar V'yitareh V'yitalal Shmei Dekudsha Hu Ba'elam Yimkol Birchata B'Shurata B'Shbechata B'Nechemata B'Amiran B'Alma V'Imru
Amen.
Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya B'Chaim Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Imru Amen. Oseh Shalom V'Romav V'Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Al Kol Yoshvei Teitel V'Imru Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Friends, thanks so much for joining us today. I want to thank Arthur Plutzer for sponsoring today's sit in loving memory of his wife, Ann, and Lisa Firestein, also for dedicating today's sit, supporting our practice by sponsoring it in memory of Harriet Brezhnev, Zichronam Livracha. May their memories be a blessing in this world. Thank you so much for that. Thanks to Natalie for holding our space, and to Rabbi Jenny Solomon for leading us so skillfully and beautifully once again today. As always, you're invited to stay on. You can use the time if you'd like. Turn off the sound on your device. Continue sitting if you'd like. If that is what would serve you, you can join us for conversation about beautiful teaching and practice today, or to share your reflections about it. And if you're leaving us now, we hope to see you tomorrow or Friday. We'll be here at our usual time, and hope you stay safe and well in the meantime. If you do have a question for Rabbi Jenny, please put it in the chat, and preface it by writing question all in caps, and that will help me keep an eye on it. Yeah, thank you, Jenny. So beautiful. It was extremely helpful for me today, I'll tell you that. I love that midrash, and it's so comforting, when we think, oh, something is coming to an end, have this sense of, as something is coming to an end, something is beginning, that there's a weaving together of the past and the future. But before we even get to that, it really struck me when you read the midrash, the question. I forgot the rabbi. I don't have it right in front of me right now, but the rabbi is asking the question. Who says, why does it need to say that? The sun sets, the sun rises. We all know that, right? It's just want to, for a moment, underscore what a great example of mindfulness practice that is. That he says, and this is really the rabbinic way of looking at the world, say that if something seems obvious, then we're missing something. There's got to be, there's this curiosity about what could it mean, right? Nothing is really rote. There's always got to be something fresh and new. I mean, a lot of people think Jewish mindfulness practice is some transplant onto Jewish tradition, but there's nothing more Jewish mindfulness-y than the process of making midrash. So before you even get to the content of the midrash,
Great perspective. True.
yeah. So thank you for that. Alone, that was worth the price of admission right there. But also this intermingling of the past. I guess I want to jump to the John O'Donohue quote. I love John O'Donohue. For those of you who don't know who John O'Donohue was, he was a Celtic poet, beautiful poet, has an incredible book called The Book of Blessing, or To Bless the Space Between Us, right? Which is a book of blessings for many occasions. Must have on your bookshelf. Maybe we can even bring it up. Natalie, if you have the source sheet, if you don't mind screen sharing it for a minute, and that second quote from John O'Donohue. Which is so incredibly powerful. I don't know if you have, I don't know if you have it. I could do it. I have it here. Okay, what? Here we go. I got it. Nope, no worries.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark.
Um, Nothing ever disappears. Nothing is lost. Everything that happens to us in the world passes into us. It all becomes part of the inner temple of the soul. Can never be lost. Wow.
Mhm. Mhm.
Wow. This is the art of the soul to harvest your deeper in life from all the seasons of your experience. Um, how do you like? Why did you choose that, Jenny? What does that, what does that do for you?
I was feeling so, inspired by this idea that on the one hand, we work with impermanence and the comings and the goings and the ways in which things don't last. And at the same time, there's this way in which John O'Donohue, but I think also the Midrash speaks to this idea that there is also continuity whereby nothing is actually lost, it's just transformed in some way. I think there's a story, maybe it's attributed to Zalman Schachter Shlomi about Tashlich. I remember learning this about, we think we're throwing breadcrumbs or little stones into the water in this ritual that we do traditionally on Rosh Hashanah as a way of tossing our sins, our mistakes, throwing them away. But those things that we throw, the breadcrumbs, they get eaten by the fish and the other things in the water, and they get transformed just into other stuff. So, in that sense, like there also is no going away. Both things are true. And I guess I'm just really touched in this moment in which we're feeling, many of us, the anxiety of the ground shifting beneath us, this awareness again of the fact that nothing lasts and everything lasts.
Nothing lasts and everything lasts. Um, First of all, I also want to, I'm just scrolling through the chat also to see a question. There's a question. I just want to say Mazel Tov to Jean Wallman, who wrote, Rabbi Jenny, your teaching today so resonated with me as we will welcome a new granddaughter into the world on my 81st birthday, a generational transition we anticipate with endless joy and sadness. That's so beautiful. Mazel Tov about that. Um, so let's take this question. Maintaining it from Lori, maintaining a constant awareness of the ephemeral nature of absolutely everything. It really is about impermanence, right? Everything comes and goes. Um, Lori writes, makes me feel more generous and forgiving of others in situations that don't meet my expectations that disappoint me. On the other hand, the rapid sunset of each moment makes me think that perhaps I should be less tolerant of perceived nonsense. Could you please speak to this struggle about, on the one hand, that impermanence kind of gives that sense of, let it go.
Yeah,
Everything changes, right? It's in the past. It came, it happened, it went. But there's also that sense of, time, um,
time is short.
time is short, right? That's the paradox. So
Yeah.
what do you
So
think?
here I'm going to channel another one of our beloved IJS teachers, Rabbi Shefa Gold, um, who talks so exquisitely about making that choice about how we want to expend the limited energy that we have.
Hmm.
Of when we're in those moments when we can have enough presence of mind to try to discern, like, how is it that I want to use this brief moment.
Hmm.
um, can we choose love? Can we choose the values that feel most, that call to us most deeply?
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's really beautiful. I mean, it is a paradox, and we have a lot in our tradition that reflects that paradox, including the idea, I think it's Pure Kevo, you tell me if I'm wrong here, if that everything is foreseen,
Yeah.
and free will are given, right? Like, like on the one hand, we have no control. Everything is unfolding, much, much bigger than us. On the other hand, we have agency, and we're meant to act on that agency in some way. And so, we have this phrase in Hebrew, Gamze Yavor, this too shall pass, right? Like everything, this too shall pass, which doesn't mean being indifferent or not having any judgment. And one of the whole, I guess, can think about that. I hadn't really thought about it this way, but really the interplay between these two key sacred qualities of chesed, of loving connection, loving kindness, in which really there is no judgment, there is no distinction. It's just all one. And then Gevura, which is judgment and boundaries where there are distinctions to be made and actions to be taken, and judgment is important. And it makes me want to lift up Shimon's comment here, which is really great, who said that in his first meditation, teacher instructed him to breathe so that there would be no pause between inhalation and exhalation. One would flow into the other. So there's only the one beyond time, which is kind of where you were going today, right? New thoughts, distractions sneak in when we impose a pause on the eternal flow, so that that uninterrupted process of breathing, where we artificially break it up. Oh, this is the inhalation, that's the exhalation. This is between the two. Right? That's another way you really invited us today to experience both of those things. They're both true. They're both true.
Yeah, yeah, Shimon, I'm thinking about my beloved yoga teacher locally who um, teaches very similarly as we're moving from pose to pose, from shape to shape. Can we make the in-between spaces between the poses also part of the pose? So that we're paying attention not just to sort of arriving in a particular shape as some sort of finished product, but rather just a continuation of movement of one bigger embodied movement.
Yeah. Um, uh, this idea that Kohelet says also that, there's nothing new under the sun, right? It's all, um, there's nothing new and everything is new. We have also in that tradition, right? Like the world is recreated anew every moment and it's
Yeah,
all been around. So to Harris's point about, that we have a lot of inherited wisdom, there's nothing more like how do we find a chidush, something new to say, right? Like you're a congregational rabbi, like how do you come up with something new, right, that hasn't been said before? Um, and it involves building on steeping oneself in all that has already been said, and it's
yeah,
all been said, and yet,
yes,
something, something new emerges because no one has ever seen Torah through the lens that you bring, that your own unique being and experience is
yeah.
another way of experiencing that.
Yeah. The fact that all of us are gathered here in this moment, in this new moment, this constellation of human beings, each one of us at this moment in our individual and collective journeys, there is something new to that, even though what we're doing here by sitting and breathing and studying these words of Torah there's nothing new at all about it. Both are true.
Right. Right. Um, and for those of you who are here, many days or most days or have been here a lot, may also feel, as I do sometimes, that it's all a blur, like, right, um, and yet at any particular moment in time, I see like, wow, that's new. This is different.
Mhm.
Um, and it stands out. We really get to experience that on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But when I like people are asking, I see in the chat whether Josh's conversation with Adina Allen is going to be recorded, and the answer is yes. Um, and I don't know if it'll be on the website, but it'll be released. But if you want to make sure to get an email with that link to the recordings, please do sign up for it. I really encourage people to do that, whether you can join live or not as well. All right, Jenny, I want to thank you as always for all the gifts that you bring to us at IJS, both through leading the sits and your role on the board and all the forms of support, and also welcome the Beth Meyer folks who might be here. And once again, give a shout out. Jenny leads a lot of beautiful practices for those of you who are cursed or blessed to be on social media. One of the blessings is that you get to do a little extra practice with Jenny in short videos, and they're really fantastic. So highly recommend you check that out if you are one of those people.
Thank you
I
so much.
am not so much these days, uh, but in general, it is good for the neshama.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you, everyone. Such an honor to
Um,
be here always.
yeah, and thank you so much to our sponsors again, to Arthur and to Lisa for sponsoring our practice today, and Natalie for holding our space. Looking forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. If my memory serves right, Rabbi Dorothy Richmond is leading tomorrow, and we'll sit into Shabbat on Friday with Marita Anderson. So looking forward to that very much. Hope to see you all tomorrow. Take care. Many blessings, everyone.